Hey there Halloweenies, it's Blackmetalwerewolf making a brand new October video for you. And today we're going to be talking about horror movies. Of course, horror movies are a gigantic part of the Halloween season. To me, it would not feel like Halloween unless I sat down and binge-watched a fuck ton of horror movies. Obviously, you can watch horror movies any time of the year, but there's something special about watching them during October. The sun sets at 5 o'clock, you get comfy on your couch or in your bed with a big bowl of Halloween candy that you damn well know isn't making it to Halloween. Obviously, I'm a gigantic fan of horror movies, but there are a few horror movie moments that have stuck with me my entire life, and that's why I'm going to run down you guys my favorite horror movie moments. Just a bit of information before I start this video. I want to let you guys know that this is not a ranked list. I'm not saying one video is better than another video. I'm just saying that these are my favorite moments in my favorite movies. Next, spoiler warning. I will be showing some spoilers to movies you may not have seen, so if you want to go into these movies fresh, I suggest you turn off the video now before I ruin anything for you. And finally, viewer discretion is advised. Some of the scenes I'm going to be talking about are rather gory and disgusting, and if you're squeamish or you don't feel you're mature enough to be watching this kind of thing, I suggest you turn off the video now. Other than that, let's get down to my favorite horror movie moments. Number 1, the book burning scene in the Goosebumps movie. I'm a colossal fan of the Goosebumps series, from the TV show, to the book series, and the 2015 movie. And my favorite scene is when all the kids are running into the high school trying to take refuge from the monster. Slappy takes all the books and burns them to release all the monsters, and so they can't be taken back in. The thing I love the most about this is getting to see all of the Goosebumps monsters like that together. Some of them are CG, but a lot of them are obviously practical effects. I love just pausing that scene and looking and seeing which ones I can point out, and maybe seeing a few that I don't know, and just seeing the cool special effects. You can see the aliens from Attack of the Jack-O-Lantern, the Executioner. It's a really cool scene with a lot of monsters, and I absolutely love it. Number 2, the werewolf scene in Fright Night. I know, I talk about Fright Night all the fucking time, because it's such a damn good movie. But the best scene in that movie is after Ed turns into a vampire, he actually becomes a wolf and attacks Peter Vincent. Peter Vincent defends himself by taking a banister and ramming it through his body, and then hurling over a banister onto the ground floor of a house. The best scene about this? Well, I guess the best part of it is watching how pitiful the wolf becomes, dragging himself away and gradually turning back into Ed. It's a gory scene with a really wicked reverse transformation. I know most people want to see someone turn into a wolf or a werewolf, but this one, it shows a wolf being impaled and then turning back into a human. It's pitiful, it's disgusting, it's sad, and it is damn good to watch. Number 3, David Cronenberg's The Fly's abortion scene. If you've never seen this version of The Fly, you are in for one gross out spectacular horror movie. My favorite scene in this is when Geena Davis finds out that she is impregnated by the Fly, but at the time when she banged him, he was still human and didn't take on the Fly form. So she doesn't know what is growing inside her. Is it half Fly? Is it full Fly? Human? Who the fuck knows? In a nightmare sequence, she goes in for an abortion to get it out of her because she doesn't know what's growing inside of her. And what comes out is a colossal maggot. It makes my stomach turn every time I see it. And the first time I watched this movie, I almost puked because of how disgusting it is. But I love gross out moments, and that scene is fucking awesome. Number 4, Poltergeist face ripoff scene. In this scene, one of the paranormal investigators sees some freaky shit in the kitchen, and he goes to the bathroom to splash some water on his face. That's when the poltergeist start fucking with him. He ends up getting a small cut on his face, and then he ends up ripping his entire face off. It is, I think, the most memorable scene in the entire movie. It is so gross, seeing all the fucking blood and guts just pour into the sink, and as he rips his face off and all the horrible noises he makes, it is absolutely disgusting. It is absolutely amazing. And even though I'm not a big fan of the TV show Family Guy, I absolutely love their Poltergeist parody when Peter does it to his face and it turns out it's Hank Hill after he rips out his face. It's funny, it's spooky, and of course it's parodied after one of the greatest horror movie moments ever. Number 5, the Werewolf Transformation in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. And anybody who knows about anything about classic horror movies is they know that in the original Wolfman, it is missing 2 main things. First of all, a shot of the full moon, and second of all, a good werewolf transformation scene. And I don't count his legs turning hairy to be a good transformation scene. But don't worry, they make up for it in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. There's a scene where Larry Talbot is laying in bed and you see the full moon, and he gradually starts to turn into the werewolf. Granted, if you watch it now, it is a little primitive. Essentially, all they did was cross-dissolve and add makeup to his face. But I think this is probably the first legitimate werewolf transformation scene in a movie, and that's why it had to make it to this list. You guys know I had to do this one. The regeneration scene in Hellraiser. This one is really gross, but it's hard to describe without actually giving away the plot of the movie, but I'll do my best. Essentially, a guy slices his hand open and spills blood all over the floor in the attic. The blood seeps into the floorboards and starts regenerating the decomposing corpse that lived there before. It's absolutely disgusting, especially the brain scene when like the skeleton comes up and like goes into the brain and comes back out and like sees his brain on like the spinal cord. It is so gross and it's just so gooey, and then sound effects, they perfected a regeneration scene from a corpse to a semi-living body. If you haven't seen it, man, do yourself a favor, get a barf bag and check it out. Next one is another classic, the face unravel in The Invisible Man. This is one of the best scenes because of how groundbreaking the special effects are for its time. Obviously, if you watch it now, it's really nothing special. Anyone can do it with basic editing software and a digital camera. But for the time, I believe that movie was in the 40s, that was something amazing. And I'm sure people in the theaters at the time were left scratching their heads wondering, how the fuck did they do that? Of course, the Invisible Man essentially just takes off his bandages and there's nothing there as he's doing it. Like I said, for the time period, it's amazing and it's one of my favorite scenes and one of my favorite horror movies. Next up is the skeleton slapping scene in Army of Darkness. Now I know Army of Darkness isn't exactly a horror movie, it's more of an action comedy, but it's part of the original Evil Dead trilogy, so I couldn't exclude it. Essentially what happens is Ash mispronounces the magic words to get the Necronomicon, and it causes the dead to rise. As he's trying to flee the graveyard, he gets tripped, and a bunch of skeleton hand comes out and starts slapping the shit out of him. This scene puts me in hysterics. By no means is it a masterful piece of, special effects, but it's still funny as hell. It's simple, it reminds you of the Three Stooges, and it's fucking hysterical, and I cannot help but laugh every time I see it. Next up, we have the ending to Halloween 3. Halloween 3, I think, is one of the most underappreciated movies ever. I will never understand the hate around this movie. Regardless, it has one of the best endings, I think, in movie history. Essentially what happens is, a toy company is making these really new popular Halloween masks, and they keep advertising, don't forget to wear your mask during a special presentation on Halloween night on television. So it turns out that the company wants to turn Halloween back to its sacrificial roots, and each mask has a chip in it, and the chip will be activated when they watch a television program, and it will kill each child watching that television program. So the doctor goes on a big mission to put a stop to it, and at the end of the movie he runs into a gas station and is on the phone watching TV yelling, "You gotta turn it off, you gotta turn it off, I know I sound crazy, you gotta turn it off." And thankfully, they do. But he starts flicking through the channels, but other TV stations are still playing it. And he yells, "You have to believe me, you gotta turn it off, you gotta turn it off." And then the movie ends. That's it, that's all, you don't get an explanation. Do they turn it off? Do any kids get killed? What the fuck happens? And that is why it makes it one of my favorite scenes. The suspense is through the roof, and you don't get a satisfying conclusion. Next up is the cat scene in Reanimator. This is another scene that it's very hard to describe without actually giving you the entire plot of the movie. But essentially, a doctor resurrects a dead cat with a serum that can raise the dead. The problem is, anytime it raises something from the dead, they go ballistic. And in this scene, he reanimates his friend's dead cat and it goes ballistic. It flies across the room and attacks both of them. They're both swinging at it and hitting walls and knocking over shelves. It is a scene that is absolutely hysterical. It's not very scary, but I don't mind that because it puts me in hysterics every time. And I think how bad the special effects are on the cat makes it even better. It's not really cheesy because the movie does have really good special effects throughout it. Just the cat looks kind of silly, but to me that makes it even better. Now you guys know I couldn't do this video without adding this scene from Night of the Living Dead. "They're coming to get you, Barbara," is one of the most iconic lines in horror movie history. And I know I'm going to catch some flack for this one, but I think in Tom Savini's remake of Night of the Living Dead, I think Bill Moseley does a better job of it. I think, first of all, he just has a good horror face, you know what I mean? And he says the line perfectly, and he also cracks a few more jokes too. And I especially like the scene where he's around his mother's grave and he reaches up and pulls himself down. "No, mother!" Oh, it's absolutely perfect. It's hysterical, it's scary, and it is a line that will last forever. Now for my final favorite horror movie scene, and that is from my favorite movie of all time, John Carpenter's The Thing. It's the chest scene. So in this scene, one of the characters has a heart attack, and everyone brings him into a room to give him a defibrillator. When the doctor goes to give it to him, his chest opens up and it turns out he's the thing. The big open chest then bites off the doctor's arm. The doctor falls back. A grotesque Norris-esque monster comes out of the beast and hangs from the ceiling, taunting the entire group. They end up torching it with a flamethrower, but as the thing is burning alive, the human's head then comes off, slides right off the table, sprouts legs, and scurries off. It is a true testament of practical effects and how no CG moment will ever be able to top that moment. And one of my favorite things about it is when they see the head scurrying off and before they torch it, one of the characters says, "You have got to be fucking kidding me." I quote that line all the time at work. The thing is, no one around me gets the reference, so that kind of sucks. But regardless, this is one of the best horror movie practical effects scenes ever made. So that's my list of my favorite horror movie moments. But I want to hear what your guys' favorites are. Chances are if you're watching this video, you're a fan of horror movies too. So in the comments, let me know what your favorite horror movie moments are and why. So that's it for today's video. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out some of my past videos. Leave me a comment letting me know what you thought of today's video, and share it with a few of your friends while you're at it. If you want to keep up with me on a more daily basis, you can follow me on Facebook and on Instagram. I also have a P.O. box open. All that information is down in the description. I have a bunch of the Halloween logo patches left, so if you'd like to get your very own Halloween logo patch, you can just click right over here. There's also a link in the description. Overall, thank you very much for watching, guys, and stay spooky!